All right, we got this Rachael Maddow, MSNBC lean forward. Okay, really, these people don't understand the difference between stand your ground and self-defense. So I wanted to talk about it. I'm going to show you a little clip and then we'll talk about it.
This law, this stand your ground law, the lady in the blue jacket, right? And it turns out it's not just Florida. Florida was first, but now basically everybody has this law. Why does everybody all of a sudden have this law? This seems
That's a good question. Since 2005, Florida started, and now everybody else has it. Florida's shown that it lowers crime dramatically every year since we've had it. So obviously, it's helpful. That's why everybody else has it. Let's see what she has to say.
new. Where did this law come from in all these states that not many people had noticed before this marquee case in Florida suddenly shocked everybody with its implications in this case?
How did it shock everybody in its implications in this case when Stand Your Ground had nothing to do with this case? Well, it certainly could have, and the fact that it's our only self-defense law now because we got rid of the old law. This is it. It's just written into the law. But beyond that, you could go to any state and take this case and plop it down, and it would be an acquittal in every single state because George had exhausted every opportunity, every reasonable means of escape. He tried. He couldn't get away. Still getting his head banged. All right? This is common sense. That's why why do they keep talking about stand your ground? Why? Because this whole case was brought together specifically to bring down the stand your ground or slow down stand your ground laws that were going into the rest of the nations. And guess what? It was effective. Some of these stupid states slowed down. They're like, oh no, because guess what? They're bullied. They're bullied by people like this. She's a bully. MSNBC is a bully. And guess who runs MSNBC? The political left wing, of course.
The law came from something called ALEC. These force for force, stand your ground, defend your castle laws may have been an NRA priority, but the way the NRA pushed them was through the American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC for short.
Well, if you think about it, there's several groups from the left side that push things like abortion on demand up till the minute of birth, like like NARL and some of these other groups. There's even one that pushes homosexual sex with boys. It's like a man-boy association or something like that. You know, do you think that they're going to talk about that on MSNBC unless it's in an advertisement saying come join? Really? And here we are. We're going to talk about people that have come together, pooled their money to allow people to defend themselves outside their home in the same way they would inside their home. Because that's the only difference. The only thing that we did with Stand Your Ground is we said the same rules that apply inside your house apply outside your house. If you're not breaking any rules, you're not breaking any laws, you didn't, I mean, if you're just walking down the sidewalk and somebody attacks you, you have every right to defend yourself. And if it means that you have to use deadly force, then that's what it means. That's it's perfectly okay. So what did we do is we changed the law in a way that it locked down the government, the state government and the police and said, do not arrest these people unless you have probable cause, which makes sense. I mean, commonly, if you have a robbery, if there's no probable cause, there's no arrest. This is just the way it is. But for some reason, people seem to think that because somebody died, there has to be an arrest. No, that's not the way it works. If there's no probable cause, then there's no arrest. And that's why the police said no arrest. So this lady seems to think that this little group is a problem and that they push these laws. And later on in this little video, she talks about how they were forced to get away from this law, and other companies were forced away from it too. Why? Because the left wing and MSNBC lean forward and all these other left-wing groups, especially the media circus, they're certainly not news. They're it's more like a sideshow. They they're all over TV all the time, and they're telling people what to think, and they're telling us that somehow or another there's something wrong with defending ourselves. I mean, you gotta put yourself in George's position and say, do I have a right to defend myself if some little thug gets me down and I can't get up and I'm trying everything I can and he's banging my head on the concrete and I don't know that I'm not going to die with the next blow. What do I do?
See here the legislative scorecard from ALEC for model legislation.
So she's going to say here that let me play that.
Council, ALEC for short. You can see here the legislative scorecard from ALEC for model legislation. The Castle Doctrine, which is stand your ground, is right there on the ALEC list. This
So
chilling mark.
she said that Alex, they had on their list the Castle Doctrine. This was something that they have on their list for a legislative agenda. Didn't say stand your ground, said Castle Doctrine. So this really is confusing to these people. I mean, number one, they don't understand guns. They don't really like guns. And then number two, they don't understand the law. And they don't like the law, especially when it's against what they believe in. What, in their mind, they just have this idea of what should be. And we saw this throughout this trial for the whole year. I've been telling people on my videos, and you can go back and watch all my videos and see the argument of all of what happened before. It doesn't matter. It comes down to those seconds when George fired the shot. Everything else is secondary. What was going on in his head at those seconds? So, you can't explain it to these people. Most of these people have their own security. Other people that want to do away with stand your ground are generally people that like to do crime and they don't want individuals to have the right to defend themselves. So, look at who's supporting stand your ground, and you'll see that it's mostly law-abiding people, the people that want things to go well in society. And then you'll look at see who's against it. And then you'll look and see who understands what happened in Florida, whether or not stand your ground was even an issue in this case. I mean, George didn't use stand your ground. He didn't need to. He could have gone to any state. He could have been in California. He could have been in England. Of course, you're not allowed to have a gun there. So if you use a gun in England, I guess I don't know what the deal is. But he could have been in California and shot somebody, and he would have been fine. You're allowed to even break any law, every law, in the process of self-defense. So even if he had uh, gained access to a gun illegally, it would have been ignored because he was defending his life.
Key case in Florida attracts enough outrage that the big mainstream corporate interests that belong to ALEC started to get embarrassed to be associated with the law, right? Because the uproar.
So you got to wonder how it is that there was an uproar and how it is that these people became embarrassed. How is it that you upset different companies and made them nervous? I'll tell you how. The media is controlling the people. They're controlling their little brains. I mean, these people are mindless little robots, and they come home from work and they flip on their TV, and whatever the news says, whatever Rachel says here to think, that's what they're going to think. Well, that's just so sad, and I cry for them. It's a pity because they're being driven right down that rabbit hole, and you're leading them. They're gonna find out later that they picked the wrong people to support, the wrong people to listen to. Anyway, I just wanted to show you this. I thought it was silly that they believe this. Good talking to you guys. Talk to you later.